Quiet on set. Picture is up. All right, roll sound.
Rolling.
Roll cameras.
Cam's rolling.
And 3, 2.
Hey everybody, what's going on? And welcome to Hank's Think Tank. We got a show for you here today. You're not going to believe it. We've got something abnormal. We've got something that's out there, that's extraterrestrial. We've got a paranormal show. What was that? Mark Hogan? Well, he's right here.
He's right. Sit down, everybody. Everybody sit down, sit down. Okay. Thank you very much.
Mark is the co-host of a brand new show that Studio 13 is producing called
The Constitutional Corner. And it is fascinating because I've learned a lot diving into the Constitution and the amendments, and it's been a lot of fun. And we've just shot our second show, and so we're just getting started.
Really?
Yeah, that's right.
I've been constitutional before, but I took fiber and all that and it worked it out.
Right. You've been institutional before too. And
yeah, but they let me out.
Yeah, you
all
escaped.
Right. So guys, what we got for you here today is our good old friends from Spring Paranormal Investigators. And this is going to be their third or fourth time, man. Do y'all remember?
This is the fourth.
The fourth. Man, 4 in 2 years. So we're doing pretty good. And they've been really busy. So they're coming by today just to kind of give us an update on what's going on. We're going to take a look at some evidence and some stuff that I'll be inserting. Thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting both channels, I guess, now, huh?
Amen.
Yeah. And welcome, guys. How y'all doing?
Doing good.
Yeah, y'all made a lot of noise earlier. I appreciate that intro from Mark.
I haven't had an introduction like that since the last one.
Yeah, well, she set it out.
Thank you.
So anyway, so what have you guys been up to? Now, I know we tried to get together a couple times before, but people got sick and people got busy and a lot happened. So you must have been pretty busy between then and now. Because it's been, what, 6 months? Yeah.
Very, very busy. And we're starting to get a lot more cases out of town and even out of state. So that pulls us away for longer periods of time.
Okay. So traveling a lot, I guess?
Yep.
Well, that's cool. And then also working a lot of local stuff.
Yes.
Have you all found any similarities in a lot of these cases? So, like, I guess the question I'm asking is the same thing kind of happen in multiple locations, or is it still just different stuff everywhere?
A lot of it is very redundant, and then other things are, discovering new things we didn't know that they could do, or different types of cryptids and that kind of thing. So
usually it's a string of redundancy, and then out of the middle of left field, just wham, something else happens. So
Okay. Wow. And so cryptids, what's that?
That's a new one.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that one.
So a lot of people have the misconception that you have ghosts and you have demons, for those that believe in demons at all.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a very wide slew of things in between that are not human souls, that are just something else.
Here we go again.
They're not human souls?
They were never human. They're something else
A whole
entirely.
different thing.
Now, depending what you subscribe to, some people would say Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, things like that would be referred to as cryptids. I think some of us all have different beliefs on that, so I'll abstain from saying what mine on those specific things are.
And so this is something y'all are coming across more often?
Yes.
And how can you tell when it's not a human soul? And it's
Yeah, how do you identify that?
A lot of that is attributed to our gifted members of the team, because they will recognize it as not being a human, and then when we start having communication, we're able to verify it.
Okay.
But they're the ones who initially pick up on whether it is or is not human, because without that, wouldn't have any idea.
So how do you handle something like that in a different way, or do you handle it in a different way?
It's pretty much the same right up until the point of clearing. That's the only thing where it's different, because obviously they're not human. They're not going to go to heaven. So there are other places that they can go, and we help them get to where they need to be.
Wow.
Have you
Okay.
seen them visually?
Any of my sensitives? That's a question for
Yeah,
you
I mean,
guys?
they all look different. I think we all see them.
Well, no, I
Different,
think he was
maybe
referring
slightly
more like
different.
full-bodied apparition type.
Oh, well.
That's extremely rare,
define
even with
C,
humans.
yeah.
And so when you had mentioned that there's a communication between the sensitives and the cryptids, so How's that? I mean, is that English? I mean, do they speak English?
Usually.
Or is it more of just
I usually don't hear a voice. It's just like imparted information. That's with me though. Sometimes you'll hear like them speaking, but a lot of times, like I said, imparted information.
And what about you?
Same, you know.
Really?
You just know because they're, I guess, projecting it to you. You know, they don't really like speak.
Is it more of a feeling
But
coming over you?
It's a feeling, and I'm not sure about Lynette, but I see things like in pictures, you know, flashes of pictures and things that they want me to see, you know, things like that. So that's how they communicate.
It's almost like a telepathic organism or
Right.
something.
Yeah, it's very much like the form of telepathy. It's more or less like you'll be, if you're in a meditative trance, like you've seen Lynette be in before.
Right.
Rather than seeing their mouth move and you be talking English to each other, it's more just like you're staring at each other and the information's just coming back and forth rather than speaking in whatever
What do you
native
think-
tongue it may be.
What do you think the origin of something like that is? If it's not a human soul stuck here or whatever.
Well, I mean, even as far back in the Bible, you could go back and it references things like the Leviathans and other creatures throughout that were kind of on the fringe that were more or less viewed as primordial or spiritual even back then. All of those things are real in some sense. A lot of people, and with my personal belief, that take that a little too literally, and they're like, okay, well, monsters are walking the face of the earth, and we have Bigfoot running through the woods, and there's a giant plesiosaur in Loch Ness, and there's a kraken in the middle of the Atlantic. Do I personally believe in that? No. I think a lot of these legends and stuff come from sensitive people throughout history, and they're picking up on that, and it's just getting lost to translation.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
They
Because a
do
lot-
seem to understand, though,
Yeah.
the English when we try to
Yeah,
get
it
them
doesn't
to
seem
use
to
the
be an
gear.
issue.
So we have had them communicate through the equipment, just like the humans.
right. Is there any new equipment out these days, or?
There's a lot of new things. We kind of have found, I think, what we're good with at this time. There's a few little things I'd like to add to the arsenal, but for now, we just got a thermal camera.
Oh, that's cool.
A few months
Like
back,
a FLIR or
finally.
something?
Yeah, we've been waiting for that one for a while, saving up for that. So we finally have that now.
Well, speaking of new equipment, you've actually captured some stuff and brought some things that we're going to look at.
We have.
That's what I'm looking forward to.
Cool. Well, what have you got? Let's take a look at something to start out with.
Okay, so this first one is going to be from Somerville.
Okay.
And this is going to be Josh and Michelle, I believe.
And just so you know, a lot of these, when I'm on here, I sound like I'm intoxicated. I am not.
Sure.
Okay, but
We
I
would
don't
never
know
allow
why.
that.
I hate hearing myself on these videos. I'm like, I sound drunk. Why? But I wasn't. I promise.
It's actually us that stayed drunk so we can put up with it.
There you
Yes.
go. So what are we looking at now?
So this is her Mel meter
Are there at least 5 spirits,
and 2
in this house?
flashlights, one of which is on, one of which is not.
including yourself?
And this is a preferred method of communication.
And what kind of meter did you say this was?
It's a Mel meter.
Okay.
So the question was asked and the question was answered.
I don't know how to take that. You can ask the question again for confirmation. Is there at least 5 spirits that reside in this house, including yourself?
Put it over.
This is in a bedroom.
Are any of those
He was
spirits,
holding it.
any of the spirits in this house, inhuman? They never walked this earth as a human being? Are there any of those here? I don't know, that was a messed up way of asking that. You use too many words.
Jason.
was a long day.
So that is confirming that yes, some of them are not human.
Yeah, well, that's pretty cool.
Yes, but it was also could have been
Right,
saying
Jackie,
yes
this
that it was
is
Jason that was
calls
making
out.
noise.
Yeah, so that's pretty neat. And what instrument was that again?
So that's just a basic mini mag light. They have
Okay.
no buttons. You have to turn the little front edge
Right.
to get it to turn on. So what we do is we set one to just barely off, one to just barely on. We shake them to make sure there won't be any false positives. Carefully sit them down. They're on cam the whole time. We step away.
Okay.
So there's no way that we can manipulate it
Right.
in
Right.
any way.
Yeah.
So this
And
is-
you're not going to get a false positive. So if there's nothing in the room, the lights aren't going to change from the
And
moment they're
those
set
little
down.
mini mag lights are either off or on. There's no graduated lightning, and I
Right.
noticed that apparently the energy was fluctuating enough to
Mm-hmm.
brighten and dim that light, which you can't do that with a mag light.
That's a
Right.
good
Right.
point.
Yeah. Freaky.
I got the willies already. Can you tell?
That's nothing.
So, when you do discover that there's something there that's not supposed to be there, I mean, at that point, I guess, is when you start doing an assessment to try to determine what it is and whether it needs to be gotten rid of. Because I would imagine there are certain cases where there's something there that's not supposed to be there that doesn't necessarily need to go away.
Right.
You know, like guardian angels, stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Have
yeah.
y'all come
Usually
across
they
anything like
won't
that?
interact. That's very rare.
My
for
guardian
those
angel
type of
interacts all the time. So that's why I'm so scarred
Well, they
up.
don't usually react with us. Maybe with
Oh,
the
okay.
individual, but most of the time we try to pretty much help most, if not all, of the entities in a place that we investigate out.
Mm-hmm.
Just because there is a better, happier place for them to be. Even if they're happy being here, they're somewhere better. where
Even
they
for
are
the ones that
supposed
are
to
non-human.
be. Yes.
Really? Where might this
But there's
place...
usually more of their kind, right?
Right.
We find
Oh,
out they're
okay.
usually one, and we're like, well, where are your people? We'll help you find your people.
And sometimes they're sad because they're estranged from their group and they want to be back with others like themselves. And so,
Wow.
I wanna
just
take
like
it-
people, they have their own emotions.
Just like and yeah, like she just said, they're very similar to people in the same sense. They have their own social structures, their own beliefs, own way of interacting. Some of them are more solitary. Some of them are incredibly, we're grouped together, and so did something with witchcraft, and it ended up bringing me here, and I don't know how to get back to where I was. Can you help me get back to where I was? Sometimes it's more land-based entities that are, okay, I'm here to protect the animals or whatever, and usually most oftentimes if it's a land spirit or something that
Yeah,
was
land guardian.
always there, that it just kind of protects everything, just like the Native Americans will leave that and let them
Right, that's an
stay.
exception.
As long as they're not causing an issue for anyone or scaring anyone,
Mhm.
there's no real threat there. And oftentimes people will just see an inhuman and go, oh, scary, and or see it interacting or pick up on it and be like, this is a scary thing, when in all reality it's just chilling in your closet.
Right.
Wow. So it seems to me, and maybe I'm wrong, that this would be more prevalent in a not so densely populated area.
Well,
Like it seems
it's
like out
funny.
in the forest you'd see more of this kind of thing. You know what I mean?
It's funny you say that because we started the team and we thought we're in a suburb of Houston. We're going to be in Houston all the time. We're going to be downtown all the time. That was our original, just what we were thinking. A lot of the teams that are in Houston don't like to leave their area. Whether it's the west side of Houston, east side of Houston, downtown, whatever it may be. They have a short range that they will go.
Really?
We don't do that. We'll go anywhere. So you get these calls out in Jasper and Somerville and some of the places we're going to show. And a lot of teams don't want to drive that far or go that far out. Whereas we will do that and we will help those people. So we end up in the sticks, ironically, more of the
Right.
time than we're in the city.
Wow.
We've had way more acreage and country investigations than we've had in the city of Houston by far.
And you're right about the vastness of the land. We'll go somewhere and there'll be a single house, and all of us will be like, "Wow, there's a lot of people, inhumans on the land." I mean, you can just tell.
Mhm.
They don't have to be in houses. A lot of times they're just outside. Then you build a structure, and some of them will go and be your guests in your home.
Yeah.
We did a case a few months back in Bremen, Texas. Jason loved that one because we were hiking acreage all night. We actually never did get to do the home. Family had a baby, and their priorities had to go other ways for a little while. They do expect to have us back one day, but we did the acreage. So we were just outside walking trails and walking next to ponds and swamps all night.
Wow. So are there places that you go where you just don't find anything? You have a client that complains and says, hey, I'm just being affected by this. But then I guess they get bashful when you guys show up and they decide just to hide or whatever. Because you don't know they're there if they don't interact.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of a two-part question. So initially, back when we started the group years ago, things were different than they are now. And there was a lot of the time where we would go out and it's not actually haunted. There's nothing here. Most of the time, there was nothing there. And we'd get really excited when there was. As time went on, it seems like activities kind of picked up everywhere. So we found more of the time that things were getting to be, it was a 50-50 split, and then it was more of the time that they're valid. Now with what we do, because we're in that specialty bracket, we're rarely the first team that somebody calls. Usually it's we've had 3 other teams out, or we've had the church out, and everybody's failed, and we still have this problem. And then they get referred to us. So by the time we're coming in, you've got 2 or 3 other teams that have already said, oh yeah, you got a problem. We don't know what to do about this or how to fix this. And then we come in.
Okay.
So we very rarely see cases that are not legitimate in that sense anymore. But it is often that we'll go out and the first time they're not sure about us. And so they're very quiet, or we can sense they're watching us or they're around, but they're not interacting.
Right.
And
We're-
sometimes
we're
it's
strangers.
Sometimes they'll let us know that they're here.
But they won't answer questions.
That's it, yeah.
So y'all figured out a way to hone your skills enough to bring them out, even if they don't want
Yeah,
to?
over time, I think we all have.
We just
yeah.
come out again.
Yeah.
We threaten them with that.
Yeah, we do, Amy. Yeah, we've threatened them. I mean,
Lynette
I
and
always
I do
say
that a lot.
they're like cats. If they don't know us, and cats are like, okay, bye. And next time you come back, they're like, oh, we know you. We kind of know you. You're pretty safe. But yeah, Amy and I, in the last investigation, we weren't getting answers, and so we're like, well, I can promise you we'll be back to help you, because we're not, it's not going to be just this one, investigation. I promise you'll see us again.
Wow. Okay.
I mean,
That's
we're
pretty
trying
good.
to help them. We tell them the truth. We're back.
Yeah.
And then a lot of times what we'll do, especially, is we'll come from, this is a person, this isn't just a spirit, that it's this abstract concept. We'll try and connect with them in a more personal, meaningful way. If one of the sensitives, if we're sensing that, okay, this person died in a car crash, we'll be like, we'll try and focus in on the details of their life and try to make it not, what are you in this corner? How do you interact with the gear? And we try to come at it from more, we're helping them as well as the clients. And usually after the first couple sessions in an investigation, they'll be like, they're asking questions about me. They're not asking questions about how I do things or any of this. They're out to actually help me. And usually by the second investigation, if there's anyone that was reluctant to speak, at that point that is kind of gone, because they're like, oh, they actually really are here to help me and not just poke and prod me like a science project.
Or if one of them steps up, there's always one, right? We have Michelle and I say it's the mole.
Yep.
It'll be one that'll.
Gotta find the
Sometimes it's
mole.
a child or it's a younger spirit, but they'll be like, okay, I'll talk to the people, and then everybody's like, oh, well, they talk to them, so and it's like a little snowball. Then we get other spirits talking to us. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that in a lot of cases there's multiple spirits instead.
There's
I would always
almost
think that there's
always.
just a singular,
Almost always.
And do you ever
Rarely.
have a case where the spirits are antagonizing each other?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. All the time.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, that's got to cause some problems, I would imagine, if you got more than one spirit that's mad at another or something.
It causes problems in the house. When they do that, it's actually kind of good for us, because usually the ones that are being bullied are very quick to step forward when they realize we're there to help, and they're really ready to tell on the other one that's the problem and tell us everything about
Yeah,
them. So.
and the poor homeowner is caught in the middle of a
Yes.
ghost fight.
Yeah, exactly. That happens a lot. It's very
Does it
accurate,
really?
actually.
Yeah, and the
Wow.
homeowner usually hears from the bully. The other spirits are usually pretty hands-off. They're just kind of there.
Right.
So there's usually one loud one or one that I guess kind of fashions themselves as like the lead or
Yeah, the
Yes.
the boss.
Yeah, like you said, Hank, a lot of most people would associate activity with just one spirit because, I mean, who's going to be thinking outside the box? This could be 12 different spirits.
Right.
You've got something going on over here, you've got something going on over there, and if you're not sensitive and can't pick up on specifically who it is doing that, you're just going to say it's one. Make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, that's what I always thought was when you came up on something like this, more than likely it would just be one. But it's actually so. Is there a mixture between human and non-human usually?
So
And then the battle between human and non-human also.
kind of keeping it on the same tangent, and specifically, we've got I know we've got a couple clips from Jasper coming up. We like to refer to that as the Days of Our Lives case because everything was so entangled with all the spirits. It was a lot of people that knew each other, a lot of drama.
It was
Affairs.
a ghost soap opera.
There was,
It really was.
it really was.
You can't make this stuff up.
Yeah,
I mean,
there was a particular spirit the first time we were there. They had a lot of stuff. That she was very controlling of the situation. She was the one doing all the majority of the negative stuff, or at least also coaxing other spirits into, you're going to do this for me or I'm going to hurt you type thing.
And this was serious stuff,
Yeah.
not light stuff. People being possessed,
Scratched,
people being
yeah.
scratched,
People
a lot
getting
of
locked in
physical
rooms,
pain
stuff
and-
like that.
Yeah.
And
Furniture being
yeah,
rearranged.
and there
Yeah.
was a decent mixture on that case as well of inhuman stuff. She was a witch in life, so she kind of called up upon a bunch of stuff in death.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
What are
so-
the odds? You
Had
got
to
a
be-
ghost.
Had to be Mark's ex-wife or something.
Careful, Hank. I got a good ex-wife and a bad ex-wife.
Do you?
She was a very powerful entity.
but we help them, and sometimes we can help them turn around, and they're loyal to us. They'll help us in other cases. You'd be surprised.
Really?
Guys.
Yes.
So do we have evidence from this particular case?
We do have some. That's going to be a
next
little
one,
further
right?
down now. That will be our fourth video.
What do we got next?
Did we go?
Yeah, what do we got next? What's next up?
What's next?
So
Next
the
up
actual
on Hank's
next
Think
one
Tank.
on the list, that would be from Conroe.
Did we finish all the first?
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's talk about the Conroe evidence we're getting ready to check out then.
Conroe, right here in your backyard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this was kind of on a property that was on some land, like off 242 area. And this is Michelle and Jason in a room. Michelle was rather seriously injured on this night. And she was having a very hard time in this room, if this is the clip that I'm remembering it is.
Okay. Let's check it out.
Good to know.
Is your body buried over on the other side of the property where the homeowners like to stay? In that area? Thank you.
The device is your safer, just for y'all's knowledge. Again, the mini mag lights. You also have an audio recorder off to the side, the mel meter, and a
I don't know how we can get much more specific than that.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
You're asking about a little girl that was buried on the property.
She was murdered and her body
Can you
buried.
turn off the flashlight? Michelle itching.
All the way off, you almost got it.
Just a little more.
Good job.
Thank you. Do you have a favorite flower? Do you like roses?
Been like roses.
Do you like lilies?
Thank you.
Just trying to, they asked, trying to find out like what her favorite flower is, so we can plant her favorite flowers.
Is that the little girl you're talking to?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can.
Sadie?
Sadie.
Her name was Sadie.
All flowers are pretty.
Yeah, with
Thank you
kids,
for that.
light tends to do that, with kids especially.
We have more
that was Minnie.
difficulty working.
Yeah,
Mhm.
mastering that.
Maybe not as much energy.
Perhaps.
Thank you.
Although for a child, she had very good command.
Is your body all the way in the corner of the property? The far end over on the other side? Yes.
We knew that because we had Lynette
That's where the
walk
woods
the
are.
property
Is it?
and find the spot.
Oh, okay.
I knew I saw her standing in woods.
That's the thickest woods on the property, unless the property goes back beyond the pond, which I don't think it
No,
does.
we didn't know. No, Lynette didn't walk it yet.
Was that after?
Yeah, we kind of narrowed it down in the session, and then when Lynette came out, I don't know if she was on the first
No, I did
investigation.
the second
We didn't
part.
tell her. We were walking her on the property, and this was actually the first time I had seen her.
So you knew where the child had been buried?
But through this session and the answers that we got through the session, we
and
knew.
I saw her standing in the woods.
And you had seen her back there as well.
Yeah.
So then we had Lynette walking, and we just happened to intentionally walk her through that area, and she stopped in basically the area that we were describing. Same corner, everything, and said, "There's a body buried here." And
Was this known by the authorities? Had they discovered a body there?
The family, after this came out, did have them work on that. This was a very, very long time ago. So I don't recollect I don't think they found any remains because it was so long ago. And she wasn't properly buried, obviously, just put under the dirt. So
Yeah.
elements and
Sure.
things. But they did plant the flowers that were asked about.
Little Sadie.
Since Jason and I are both ministers, I offered if they wanted that I would come out and actually do a ceremony for her, give her a more proper.
Do you know the
burial.
lineage, ancestry of that child?
What we did know, she was murdered. Do you remember the detail? This was a few years ago, so forgive me.
been a
There's so
while.
many.
So, like, she was murdered many, many, many years ago.
Yeah.
No, it's
Oh,
not
yeah.
current.
Like 1800s, she
Okay.
was murdered.
Yeah.
Long, long time ago.
Yeah. Yeah, murder was common back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would like to find her downline family and talk to them about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
there's any of them left.
A lot of these things, yeah, it's a spirit that's from 200 years ago, and we're going so.
And so she
Yeah.
was trapped on the property, and y'all were able, obviously, to clear her and get her off to heaven. Or,
I would like to say yes. In this particular case, the family that lived there, they had kind of learned to appreciate her almost like a daughter, and they were not quite ready to let her go.
I can see
so
that
to
they
speak.
might actually kind of grow attached to something like that.
So I am still in touch with them, and from time to time we will talk about things, and I'm hoping that one day that we will be able to get back out to that property and finish. There were a few things left unfinished because they had other things going on, and they had to stop the investigation process. But hopefully at some point we can finish that.
and so was that the only entity that y'all dealt with on that particular
Oh
property?
no! In fact, the next video, this one will always be very highly remembered. This was Lynette and Chris and I in a room, and there was a serial killer, a spirit of a serial killer that was in that house,
Okay.
causing quite a ruckus. And we went into this room, and Lynette actually ended up going sit in the corner where we had kind of sensed him, and she channeled him. And I proceeded, this is just a little clip of it, of course, but I proceeded to have an hour plus long dialogue with this guy. This clip is pretty benign on purpose. That video, the homeowners actually couldn't watch the whole video. I warned them.
And this was on the same
beforehand.
property as a little girl.
Yeah, I warned them beforehand because he went into detail about what he did and what he enjoyed. And it was a...
You know his name?
Robert.
Robert was the first name. I don't know the last name. But, yeah, he was quite a character.
And just for y'all's information, a channel is like not a possession, it's like a voluntary. It's you allow the spirit to kind of do that, but you still make, kind of more like a speak through rather than a full possession where they just take complete control.
Okay, let's roll it,
Better
Jack.
how?
Because it's none of your business, so you need to go home.
It is our business. The homeowners who live here asked us to come and help them.
So he wants to know what you think you're going to find here.
He wants to know?
Yeah.
Who, the guy in the attic?
A guy, doesn't matter which guy.
Who's the boss? Is he around?
Who's the boss?
I know, you told me. You're the ones with all the answers who don't want to share. We want to help you, yet you won't let us. Are you afraid of him?
No.
Are you helping him?
We all help each other.
Does he intend to hurt the people who live here? And I already know the answer to that question. So you may want to answer it carefully.
Define hurt.
Possess, inflict mental anguish, cause physical pain, any of the above?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think we're already doing that.
Well, thank you for being honest. I appreciate that.
Wow.
That's the benign part.
Yeah, so it starts to get a little ridiculous
Right,
after that, huh?
right before that, actually, Chris was sitting next to me, and they were working on the house, and there was a ladder leaning, propped up against the wall, and he was kind of in front of it, and I saw the ladder start to move as he was just starting to channel her, and I told him, I said, you need to move, and I gave him a specific spot, and so he's looking at me questioning. I'm like, don't question me, just go where I'm telling you to go, because I could tell they were about to push the ladder, and actually something did fall. I don't know if it was the ladder, but something did fall between us shortly after that.
Wow.
And then, she of course
I was
started
on the other
channeling
side.
him. You were on the other side of the
I was
room
on
in
the
the
other
dark.
side
Yeah.
And then right after that, we basically thought that the channeling session was over, but he wasn't quite done. So we were doing our usual after each session, take a break, convene, reevaluate what we need
Shake
to
it
do,
off,
and,
yeah.
that type of stuff.
Yeah.
So we were on the way out, and Lynette's coming through the through to the kitchen, where we have all of our gear staged. We're a staging area for that case.
Everything was on the kitchen table, laid out.
And she says, well, it'd be a shame if your equipment broke. Well, Amy doesn't miss a beat. She comes back. Well, go ahead, try it. I've got backups for my backups. We're prepared. And then she insists that the spirit release Lynette, give us Lynette back. Free her up. We go outside, start taking our break, and me and Amy are standing by the window outside the kitchen, we start hearing stuff crash off the table and go back in, and our flashlights are on the floor under a shelf. Cameras had fallen off
So
of
he
stuff.
was following through with his.
Oh yeah, he was trying. He was trying. It was an amazing.
And then I got mad.
So were you able to get rid of that guy?
That is the same case, unfortunately, where we were unable to finish. The family moved out of that house, built another house on the land. So they are no longer living in that structure, but that structure is still standing.
Well, you know, once the AC is turned off and the power is turned off in the old house, those ghosts are going to man, let's get over there where it's cool. And there you go.
I still have extreme concern for them because, as you noticed, we were referencing somebody in the attic who we believe was a demonic entity. So there was a lot of concern in that house because there were a lot of malevolent spirits. There was what we think was a demonic spirit as well.
Wow.
So is there any reason that in your years of experience that you've been able to assimilate as to why certain entities gather in certain areas, like in certain locations and such? How can we prevent this? That's what I want to know. Because I want to prevent this.
One big thing, and the way it's been described to us, because we've had that same question multiple times. Why in the middle out here, in the middle of nowhere, is there 200 of you, however many it may be? A lot of the way it's described to us, and we're all, I think at this point, we're all on the same page. We all kind of believe in purgatory, like the in-between heaven and hell, where you're not crossed over yet, you're just kind of waiting.
Right, Pasadena.
Yeah, pretty much. Anyway, the way they see it is almost like just an empty expanse. And if you're, I like to make the analogy of if you're a person in a giant, just empty warehouse, and you see a person like 400 feet away, and there's nobody else, oh, I'm gonna go talk to that person, see what's up. They all kind of see each other and start to, I mean, humans are social, they start to congregate.
Yeah. So they're humans.
Sometimes that's near water or electrical plant, anything that kind of conducts the energy so they can more well interact. Sometimes that's around sensitives because they know they have the ability to communicate and to help them, so they'll see them and then they'll hone in on them. Other times, like I said with energy, that could mean in the spiritual plane as well. A lot of times spirits will congregate around inhumans, other demonics, just because of the energy. They'll get drawn in like moths to a flame, not realizing what it is, and then they're stuck there. So it could be for a variety of reasons. Most of the time it's energy, but a big component of that I would say would be just social nature.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Well, they just gravitate toward each other.
Well, I think we've touched on it before. It's a lot of the spirits are attached to the land, whether it be happy place in life, traumatic place in death, but they're attached to the land and that piece of dirt. And that may be, we think, sometimes the catalyst that draws in other spirits there. But it usually starts with the land, in most cases.
It's
always
usually
exceptions.
not the house or the structure most of the time.
It's the property.
Yeah, which may have had structures on it
Years
ago.
400 years ago.
Or we find battles where there's burned battles too.
Yeah.
Really?
Well, that's interesting. Have you ever gone to a battlefield like Gettysburg or something?
We would love to. We haven't been. We would.
I want to go with you when you do that.
It is also the Taoist priest that we work with a lot. He likes to say, positive attracts positive, negative attracts negative. That could not be more true.
Yeah.
These negative entities, they are attracted to the other negatives. They're attracted if the family has a lot of trouble, be it mental, emotional, physical. They're looking for those weaknesses. They're looking for the negative energy coming off of that so that they can exploit it and make it worse. If your energy is good and you have a good, happy family home and you get along good, the odds that you're going to have something like that are far less.
Or that you're going to notice it is far less.
You're going to notice it far quicker.
Yeah, they'll probably just move on and try to find somebody who's more disturbed.
Like attracts like.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty cool.
Y'all are too happy. Let's go next door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why we don't have too many problems.
There you go.
And the ones we do just kind of, I don't know, watch us.
Have you
At
ever
least
had
that's the way I feel like it, you know.
Yeah, feel like you're being watched, but you haven't seen anything there.
Never in the restroom, thank God. But but
at least your ghosts have a little class. Have you ever had a case where you've got someone and they've got no problem, they've got no spirits, but they're kind of lonely? Maybe a little old lady who lost her cat or something, and she's just like a friendly ghost to just sort of hang around, you know, watch TV with her, maybe do the dishes once in a while.
It's been a while. We did used to get some things more.
I can imagine there were people out there like that.
Yeah. Again, the transfer to the specialty role now, we don't get many of those anymore. You know, more of the local teams, you know, that stick to their little area tend to get those. And we get the heavier stuff. Yeah, we're thrilled when we get a Casper. We're like, oh, yay, a break. This is great. You know, you got nothing. It's fine.
A lot of times with that, you had so many people come out, and these people already believe that, okay, yes, I have this issue. And a lot of times it'll kind of get to them, and they'll blow things out of proportion, like, oh, they're knocking on the walls of my house. Well, no, you've got a couple pieces of loose siding out here that are banging against the wall. Or, oh, my smoke detector's beeping, and they're purposely beeping it at me. You just haven't changed the battery in a minute. Sometimes we deal with that issue as well, where somebody's like, I know they have an issue, and they do have a legitimate issue, but it becomes everything,
every little thing
attributed to that, and if it's something they don't understand, well, it's automatically that. It's just the human nature to kind of throw everything and try to group it together, when a lot of times it's multiple issues. Some people may have relationship issues, and oh, well, the spirits are affecting us negatively, and it's our energy, and it's just a relationship issue with you and your spouse. And granted, yes, they could be slightly interfering with that, but a lot of times we lump all of our problems onto that, and that's not necessarily the case.
It's easy to do that once you find yourself in that situation and you have valid proof that, okay, this is going on. It's very easy just to shift everything to, oh, well, it's all the ghosts then.
Yeah.
And that's very rarely the case.
Yeah.
It is sometimes the case, but rarely the case.
Yeah, see, I was going to ask if you thought the degradation of society is what makes for a more fertile ground for all this to happen. And I guess really it is.
I think it's very
because then you start having a lot of people with mental problems and relationship problems and things that would just attract all that.
A lack of respect for life in general would make a poor spirit, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So I guess a lot of that would be going on right now in Ukraine and places like that too. You know?
It's everywhere. I mean, it's totally everywhere. People think when they call, I'm the only one. What's wrong with me? Why do I have this? I'm not doing this every weekend because you're the only one.
All right.
Yeah.
We've got tons of them, you know. We're working like 10 cases right now that we have open on the docket. So
yeah. That's crazy.
It's very common, far more common than people think. People still don't like to talk about it because there's that stigma of I might be crazy. Or what if I want to sell my house?
If you live in America today, you're crazy. No way around it. I mean, you got to look at what we face, especially since 2020. It's just been, if you're not nuts, there's something wrong with you, you know. So we're going into the third piece of evidence. So what's the third one about?
So this is getting into the Jasper case, actually, that we were talking about before. This next one is Raiden and I, and we had several female spirits in the room with us. So they are operating several gadgets at one time. And it was just a nice little light show. It's just.
So do you do gender questioning? Do you find out if they're male or female right off the bat?
That's one of the very first questions.
We can tell the female ones because they're always late.
I wonder if there's any trans spirits. You know?
I don't know if so.
Since
we
that's a big
haven't
thing and a
really
big
run
topic.
across that yet.
I worked with Blue, and I ran into one actually. That's the only time though.
We did have one, Jason and a former investigator of ours, Tracy, I believe, actually at the same house as the last two clips. There was a gentleman who was gay, who was a cross-dresser.
Oh yeah.
And he had issues crossing because of those things. He was afraid he wouldn't be accepted and so forth. And Jason and Tracy actually talked to him.
Wow.
So I think that was the closest case-wise, though, that we've gotten to that.
So I guess all things in life, all things after death, too.
Sure.
You know, wow. All right, so let's check out this next clip.
Jasper.
I met a guy on the bus coming back from Seattle.
His name
that
was Jasper?
No, but he was a deacon in a church from Jasper, and he sang the whole way back from I don't know, Tucson, Arizona, all the way to Texas.
2 of you in here with us?
Amazing.
Was he good?
Yeah, he was great.
Thank God for that.
Bad if it was bad.
That's what I was saying.
All right, so what are we looking at?
3 of you in here with us.
So we were trying to figure out how many are with us. We knew there were multiples. We're trying to guess the right
KT
number.
did go off slightly though after you said it.
Yep.
There we go.
Okay, thank you very
That's
much.
what I thought. We had 3.
Okay, so we have confirmed there's a female in here with us. Is there a male in here with us as well? A boy, a man?
Okay.
I'm gonna take that to mean a no. So we're dealing with all girls.
Can you please turn that light back out for us so we can ask you another question? Again, we just want to make sure we're understanding correctly. Thank you.
Thank you.
So you can see the K2 going off at the bottom there too.
Thank you.
Right.
And all 3 of you are female. Can you turn that light back on for us so that we know all 3 of you are female, either ladies or girls?
You too. You turn that. There you go. Thank you.
Okay. 3 females. Okay. Can you turn that light out for us? We have another question for you. And we very much appreciate your responding to us. Thank you so much.
No worries.
How's my stomach?
Why does your stomach sound so echoey?
It is weak. Wait for you to turn that out. We want to ask you another question.
We thank you so far, though. Thank you very much.
Is there an inhuman spirit in this house that's oppressing some of the spirits here and the family here?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for that. Can you please turn that out again and we'll ask you another question. Thank you so much.
Kid too.
I think they're working the light, so it's picking up on it.
Yeah.
And we'll give you a minute. We know
There
it
you
takes
go.
a lot of energy. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Would the 3 of you like help to be able to move on and go to a better place? We can help you with that if you would like that help.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. The homeowner will see this and we will communicate to them that you want that help so that by the time this process is over, we can help you move on. Can you turn that out so we can ask you another question? You're doing a very good job, and we thank you so much.
Sniffling a lot. I think it's cold when we did that original one. Very cold.
No, for cam audio, I'm sitting here. Anytime I move my head, it makes a slight little, frictiony sound, so audio there might be. Almost got it.
Yeah, I think it was because I was wearing my jacket, so my back of my hat.
Yeah, it was very cold when we did that.
Yeah, I could see myself as an entity trying to fumble that thing. How does this damn thing work?
I just thought of something with this case with the witch, if you don't mind me.
No, go ahead.
They went on the first investigation. I probably had work and I could not go. And I told her I got a name for the witch, and I told her I kept seeing Nettles. I felt like her name was Annette. I felt like he called her Nettie, and I kept getting the name Nettles, and I'm like, and they're like, okay. And we drove up there with him the next time. We saw a Nettles cemetery.
Nettles Road.
Nettles Road.
There's like 3 things.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the family was big in the area.
Oh, yeah.
Incredibly prominent.
Very prominent.
We tried to do some research. I don't think we found anything on it.
The homeowners did.
Yeah, they did.
The
Did they?
homeowners did.
Yeah.
Yes.
What did they find out?
They went to City Hall and they found the record of
they found-
he and the wife.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Because they were
they're
the prominent
like-
members.
like we kind of were saying earlier, it was very much of a Days of Our Lives case. They were, and I'll kind of go into it, at least with their family, yeah. So they were having difficulty conceiving a child, and they finally had a biological child, and that child passed away. They were playing, we were able to discern they were playing hide and seek, and he hopped into a furnace thinking, okay, I can hide in here, and some neighbor didn't know he was in there, lit it up, and the child unfortunately ended up passing away. She kind of ended up going a little bit off the beaten path after that.
Her cheese slipped off her cracker.
Yeah, and because of that and some other things that were going on with their family in town, and this was early on, before, this wasn't really recent. More recent than others, but they ended up coming to the townsfolk, suspected her of murdering all their kids, and came basically looking for them. She got out, her husband didn't, and they ended up lynching him and killing him, and she ended up moving elsewhere, and then when she passed, she ended up just coming back to the land that they once occupied. There were a bunch of there were three other members of the town that ended up actually being there that all had fairly close relations with them and their family. One spirit who you'll actually hear in one of the later clips, who despised her, another one who was a good friend of theirs, and then a close family friend that I'm not going to get into all the relationships with Terry, but there were the three of them were very integral to their unit. What else is there? There was.
But also we cleared the first trip. We cleared, and then this is the neat part he's talking about. We went back and we found all these other spirits that were looking for Annette.
That had come after we cleared
her,
looking for her.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, she had kind of drawn in some things to help protect her and protect her space, protect her land, and those things were keeping those spirits out. So as soon as we removed her, it was vacuum of everything that wanted in or was looking for her initially, and. Well, where the hell is she?
It was a trip to the family because we did all this. It was so horrible. Everything was gone. They're like, oh, thank God. And then, half a year goes by, and then all of a sudden all this other stuff is there. And she even said, it's not nearly as bad as what it was before, but we don't want any more of this. So when we come, we find out that the ones that have come in were looking for her. And I remember the funniest part was Lynette at one point going, how much trouble did this woman cause that they're still flocking here looking for her? I mean, it was terrible.
So is it common for there to be, I guess you could call it a reinfection rate? So I mean, once you've cleared spirits from a location,
so there can be.
Does that location sometimes get reinfected?
There's different factors
Infested?
with that. So in this case, the family
What's
that
the word I'm
lives
looking
there,
for? Is it infested, infected?
Repopulated?
Repopulated. Yeah, there we go. Okay.
In this case, the lady of the house is a very strong sensitive.
Okay.
Without getting too much into disclosing family nature, there are members of their family, not necessarily that are ghost hunters, quote unquote, like we are, but that do things with the paranormal.
Okay.
So she's not only a sensitive, she has exposure to things. So that's a draw.
Okay.
Jasper.
Yeah, you can conjure it up. Yeah.
Yeah, not so much in that sense, but just like he was saying, they're going to see her energy
they're like a
calm.
beacon.
Yeah, I call people like us beacons because they can see us. They know without, they know that we can see them. They know that we can hear them. They know, compared to other people that can't. So like somehow they know who can see them and who can't. So. And if you're
it's probably an aura,
beacon, then they're gonna see, and so they're gonna flock to if they're trying to look to talk to somebody, they're gonna flock to a beacon.
Not to mention,
if a client is sensitive and we clear them, that doesn't mean that they're not going to get something later.
There's always a
They're
chance.
probably always going to get something.
Sensitive people will always have activity, even if it's not in their home.
Right.
You're
Nice.
born with that. That doesn't go away. There's no way to change.
And in the case of Jasper, they had a very not a heavy Native American presence. There were one or two that were just kind of on the land, concerned about what was there and what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
But there were a couple Inhumans in the area, and like I was stating earlier with energy, those beings are also like it's like a moth to a flame. So a lot of times you will have, especially if it's a very active area, because we're only going to clear a house. We have permission to go into one person's house.
Right.
2 doors down, they could have an issue, and that issue may say, okay, I want to come over here.
Right.
We always do our absolute best with where we're allowed to go. Unfortunately, territory-wise and who owns what houses, we're not entirely able to clear an area. If that area was, okay, 300 years ago, so-and-so fought a war here, and 300 people died. You have 20 of the 300, your neighbor has 13, these people were collateral damage in this house over here, and we're only allowed to tackle a small part of that. So
Okay, I gotcha.
a lot of times it's part of an overarching story, and there's reinfestation, as you would like to say, from that. With the Inhumans and the demonics, per se, they're once a demonic spirit's exercised, they're not allowed back in. There's certain rules with that. At that point, they know who you are. So every now and then, if you're in a super active place where there's a bunch of energy or something, you may get the little whisper in the back of your ear, or just somebody tapping you. And because you're at that point, you're on their radar. Just like with if you know me and I know you, and you see me in a Walmart, you're gonna come up and go, "Hey, how's it going?"
Right.
Type thing. But really, the reinfestation rate isn't all that high. It's just
Ours is actually very, very low.
Yeah.
As opposed to.
And we always do blessings on the land to encourage natural energy and encourage positivity. And sometimes we've had particularly bad cases where we've asked spirits or guardians from other cases to come in and, hey, will you just sit here for a little bit and just watch after everything, make sure that nothing else comes in, to kind of discourage anything negative from coming in, to kind of help facilitate the lack of that.
Do any of them ever follow you back to your office and give you kind of a update on, hey, out here at Jasper, I want you to know you might want to go out there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't stay, but they'll come and visit. That's Jasper. That's how I got a lot of the information. There was a young man's spirit that was involved with Annette, which is more of the drama. And he came to the apartment. I was living in an apartment, and this makes me sound crackers, but it's happened to Michelle, and it's happened to Raven. He came and gave me this whole story. And then some of the stuff I hear telepathically, I'm like, how am I going to tell Amy? I'm like, now she's going to think I'm crazy. So then I'm like,
you mean it'll be confirmed?
Right. So I just gave, he helped us a lot, wasn't he? He gave us like
He
the
was
last
very, very helpful.
last bits of what we needed. So yeah, sometimes it's not their house. So they'll follow you for whatever purpose to tell you or whatever, but they always go back to their home. Wow. Not their home.
Have you ever cleared anybody who said, "No, I'm going back," and have come back from being cleared?
Once you cross, you can never. In
You
our
can't- there's-
experience,
it's a
you won't
one-way
come back-
ticket.
You won't come back and be earthbound. In our experience, that's what we've seen.
They can come and visit,
Visit.
but they can't stay.
They won't be earthbound
because they're no longer earthbound. They're no longer in purgatory. They've made the transition.
They get a little ghost visa.
And at the point that once you've crossed over, then the spirits gain more clarity, and they have a different perspective. And then the can come back and visit, definitely. Loved one's spirit that has a connection to someone can come back and visit, but the interaction would be on a different level. It's not going to be opening and closing doors. It's not going to be that type of stuff. It would be surely to watch over or specific communication.
Right, and if they've gone to heaven, they're at peace at that point. So if before, when they were sitting here in purgatory, upset because, their fruitcake recipe was given out or something, now that they've crossed and they're in heaven, that doesn't mean anything. It's not important. So whatever they may have been holding on to, they've let go.
Okay. And to that point, I know we were talking about the Conroe case earlier, which brings up the question of mental issue. Obviously, this person was still very, very sick to have those thoughts even after death. What we found is until you fully cross over, until you fully move on to the other side, whatever ailments you may have been suffering from mentally, and those patterns of thought still stick with you until you're fully crossed, and then you're like, huh?
That was
What?
wrong.
That was wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that doesn't really go away until you're done with
fully
your
go away.
life journey, in a sense.
Here's an off-the-wall question, and I know this is not the services you provide, but what about seances? Calling somebody to you.
We can do that. We do that, right?
Not in here, you
no.
can't.
Not with a
No,
table.
we don't do that. I need to clarify that.
Thank you.
We do meditations, which is entirely different. When we go into a space, we do not ask anything from
We never give
outside
invitation
to
to
come in. There is no invitation. We are strictly dealing with what is in that space already. We're not bringing anything there. We're not.
But you do
putting
use helper
anything there.
spirits, like when you're clearing, right?
True, but
Yeah.
they've already crossed, and they're just coming back on visitation to help
Okay.
us.
Okay.
They're typically working with our angels.
Yeah.
These are not
Hold
spirits
somebody's
that
hand
are
and get 'em
coming
over.
in
Yeah.
across
Yeah,
the
well,
Which is what
space.
Lynette was meant by we can do that is
Right. Was your question just what? Did I misunderstand? You mean just bring in random spirits or just talk to spirits?
Well, my
Yeah.
dad passed in January, and he has since visited 2 people, and not me and not my mom. But it was just something that came through my head, as far as a seance kind of thing, where, I mean,
If you're trying to reach someone in particular, I would recommend probably finding a really good psychic who can help you communicate directly. I wouldn't do a
Psychic.
seance or a Ouija board. I think we all
Exactly.
agree. I'd find somebody who's qualified to help you communicate
A
directly.
medium who does
The
meditative
thing with,
practice
the thing with,
versus the other. There's a big difference.
Right.
The thing with like Ouija boards and seances and stuff, a lot of it comes from intention, and you're basically setting out a welcome mat.
For
You're not,
anybody.
it's not
For
necessarily.
anything.
Yeah, it's not necessarily. Oh, I want this person specifically. You're just leaving the board out, and whoever comes to interact with it, that's who you're getting.
Right.
If it's something bad, they'll
then-
come in and act like.
Yeah.
They'll. Oh yeah,
It's like
I'm your
standing on a
uncle.
corner
I'm
and
your
waving
whoever.
around
You'll
$500
think it is the
bills.
whole
I mean,
time.
who are you going to get, right? You're
Yeah.
calling attention to yourself. Who are you going to get?
Wow.
And that's the danger in that. That's just an open, hey, come on in. Might
Okay.
be good, might be bad. You don't know what you're getting. You're rolling the dice.
Well, I'd like to cover something and because it's close to my heart too, is pets. We've had a lot of pets that have passed. So, do pets? I mean, they end up in the same boat.
Absolutely.
Trapped here for one reason or another.
It's far more
Need to
rare, just because animals, for the most part, there's more simplicity there. They're not, oh, I'm emotionally tied to my car, my land, and I didn't get to pay off my mortgage, so I'm upset about that.
They don't have to deal with the ego.
But a lot of
Ego
times,
keeps us
there will be people, I'm sure you've heard the stories of the old lady who sees the ghost of her dog. A lot of times, it's specifically attachment to people. Animals will stick around, or their land, or they're specifically, and a lot of times around natives, Native American spirits, you'll see a lot of that because they were so in tune, so ingrained with the nature around them that they kind of have pets or familiars.
Yeah, or
A lot of those
sometimes
tribes
if
kept
they're
dogs,
like,
too.
like a human and a dog in life, we'll find them attached to each other in death.
We had a case just recently we cleared where the guy and his dog were hiding out in the pantry area of the home.
Bolo, yeah. Bolo the doggy.
what's the next case coming up?
Okay, so our next one is also in Jasper. This is on the follow-up, or the reinfestation, as you called it. And in this particular case, we had a lady who had been a mental patient in life. She was basically driven insane by the lady. Yeah, this is audio, so we definitely want to wait a minute. She had been basically driven insane by the lady that was there previously, that she had come back looking for.
The spirit.
Okay.
And she was very, very upset, so she was trying to intimidate these guys.
And this is audio only?
Just the first two.
Is this an audio only?
This is pretty much audio, yes. You'll be able to hear it clearly.
What happened, I'll kind of outline it, that way y'all are getting a sense before we go in. I was sitting up, the way they had it, their kitchen was like here, and it kind of flowed into their living room. I was sitting up at the bar island.
Kinda
whatever you
all
wanna call it.
open.
Yeah, and these two were sitting on the couch, and we just had multiple sets of gear out, we're filming it. And we keep hearing shuffling around us, and then all of a sudden in the back, like close to my ear, we just have, hello, just out of nowhere.
He only heard.
Yeah, and I ended up looking over it. I ended up looking at these two. I'm like,
Go ahead and
y'all
grab
just-
that mic.
I
Yeah.
was just like, did y'all end up hearing that? And they were like, no. And then all of a sudden, Was it the laugh or was it the scream first?
I think it was the scream.
Yeah, just out of the middle of nowhere, and we heard it. They heard it in other rooms in the house.
Yeah, we heard it down
All of a
the
sudden, you'll
hall.
just hear a scream, and then right immediately after that's just followed by laughter that we could all hear across the whole house, and then it's just gone.
And I would rewind that clip back to the very beginning of the clip because the audio does come fairly quickly, if I recall.
Okay. Roll it.
Do you not want to talk to us?
That was
What the hell was that?
That was not at all.
If that was you, can you do it again?
I'm surprised they did.
Could it have been the Febreze air freshener thing?
Possibly, but I've never heard it here before, have we?
Not like that.
They did a lot of changes to the house.
That almost sounded like a dog yelping.
Kind of.
You know, that or a female, like, really weird female voice.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah. If that was you, come talk to us on one of our devices over here.
I'm surprised they didn't hear that.
I know.
Do they have a Febreze?
Yeah, we heard it.
I think that one.
That ain't gonna sound like that.
No, I mean like one of the ones that, like the motorized one that shoots it up in the air.
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah, but that
that was loud. That was
That
loud.
doesn't sound like. Those Febreze things don't sound like that.
It's a big Febreze debate.
And
Is there a female here with us?
that's the first time I heard that.
Yeah, I haven't
You had
been
some-
here.
Yeah.
It would have done it sooner.
Well, it's possible the other time they did it, we were outside or in sessions and
We're heavy into debunking.
Try
to
debunk every way you can.
Absolutely.
This is true.
I know that camera.
That camera picked it up, I guarantee.
It was super loud.
It sounded back there.
You sound like it was right over here.
Yeah, I heard it right there.
No, it sounded down the hall to me.
No.
You think down the hall?
That's what I.
No, don't go down the hall.
Yeah, it sounded like it was down there.
I thought it was over in this corner, but the corner down the hall, either one.
So, Mayor, were you and your husband shot? If you're out here? Or did something bad, non-expected happen to you, like an accident, or? Oh, come on. Okay, leave me over here.
You scared?
No. Whoa, hey guys. What? I just got a voice from right here that just said hello to me.
Okay, review audio.
It was very low, but it was audible.
Come interact on our devices here.
Male, female.
Female. That was the same voice I heard calling me back to that room earlier.
Okay. Waiting over the line.
Jason, come over here. Whatever it is, I don't like it.
We didn't get the laugh one.
The
That-
laugh is on a separate one.
That scream was really weird at the very beginning.
If you go back, you can actually let
You can hear the hello.
I heard it.
Yeah, I'll insert it, and I'm sure everybody will be able to hear it because the audio will be better.
I don't know if you can
So-
do it, but if you can put like closed captions on there.
I
that'd
can
be-
caption it out, but yeah, we
Right.
can do that.
We can sit down
Yeah.
and we'll give you timestamps and stuff so you can actually like.
Okay.
Raiden really didn't
Yeah.
like it because Jason was sitting over by Raiden initially, and then he got up to kind of go move
And
around
right
and
after
investigate.
he did that, I got hello in the right next to my ear, and I was like, what
Yeah.
He's
see,
left
that-
alone on the other side of the room. He's like, wait a minute.
Yeah, I wouldn't like that
But
too
Amy
much
and I
either.
did hear that scream down
Right.
that we just didn't interrupt their session.
we were in a very active session ourselves, and it was no. We need to focus on what we're focusing on. Tune it out. They're
How long
feeling
does the average session last?
So our base is 20 minutes. Everything is a minimum of 20 minutes. If at 20 minutes nothing is happening, no one wants to interact, move on to the next space.
Okay.
But it's always a minimum of that, just because we've found by experience that it takes them sometimes a few minutes to warm up to you and decide that they're comfortable enough to communicate.
Right.
Now, as far as how long they run, that depends on the energy of the spirit, how much they have to say. Are we talking to multiples or just one? We've had sessions that go an hour and a half.
40 minutes.
So
Right.
it just depends. Usually 40 minutes to an hour, I'd say, and by that point, even the stronger ones usually are getting
They get
tired.
tired.
They're starting to have trouble manipulating the equipment, and we tell them we don't want to drain them.
There have, however, been times where we've been dealing with a particularly energetic spirit that would have kept going if we had questions, because we're kind of stuck to a yes or no format when we're using the gear. And obviously we're not seeing them, we don't have the full communication, so it's okay, are you male or are you female? Okay, you're female. Okay, were you between this age bracket? Okay, did you used to live here? Did you live somewhere else? And then we'll start trying to narrow it down, but there's only so much you can get to before you start getting into personal questions, and it's like, how do you ask that in a yes or no format? Sometimes we have had spirits that would go for that long.
It's too bad you don't have some way they can interact on a keyboard, and they can just
Well,
tell
I
a story.
was just thinking about that. I wonder if anybody's working technologically on advancements to be able to bridge the gap between, that communication gap. And I wonder if that'll happen sometime in the future.
Like strictly manufacturing equipment for ghost hunting that do things like that. So hopefully someday we'll get that.
Yeah, to where you won't be limited to a yes or no. You'll be able to actually get a little bit more information that way.
Which is kind of where we really like to get our EVPs, like you just had there, which that wasn't actually an EVP, that was audible. We heard it there in the session. But when we actually get EVPs, which we'll show you a couple here shortly.
I mean, it technically was, but it was screen.
We don't hear the stuff in the session. We don't hear it till we're going back reviewing the audio, and then there it is. And, then they can say whatever they want to say to us at that point. Absolutely fascinating with everything. Oh, yeah, definitely.
Other times we'll hear it with our ears, and usually when we hear it with our ears, the equipment won't catch it. Sometimes they say stuff like he said, and the equipment catches it, but we never heard it. It's rare that we hear it and we catch it like that clip, and those are great because we heard it, we're able to interact, but we've also got the evidence to back it up. So.
Or you could have a couple recorders like close-ish together in the room, and only one will get it. And they're what? They were all on. They were all.
In fact, one of the clips we're gonna show in just a little bit that was an exact.
That was an example of that.
Well, I'm curious. So, if it's something that's inaudible to the human ear, but then a recorder will pick it up, y'all ever use like a frequency analyzer or anything to find out what frequency that is? And if so, is that a common frequency that spirits use to communicate on?
So my original partner on the team, the gentleman that helped me start this, he did have some equipment like that.
Okay.
And he would run our EVPs through, and you could see the frequency, you could see when it would spike and all of that. And often they were at either a much lower, most of the time, frequency.
So it's below 20 hertz then.
Than what we're typical to hear.
Yeah, because we can only hear between 20 hertz and 20 kilohertz. So.
And a lot of the time, these are whispers.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very much a hello, kind of a thing.
Freaky.
Yeah. Very rarely do you get something very loud and very boisterous.
Like, even that hello wasn't really a whisper when it was in my ear. It was just loud, like a person just said it right next to my ear.
Right.
Gone. And the scream, we heard it across the house.
Yeah,
the scream was very loud.
Yeah, the scream sounded like some normal human
we
screaming.
I know they were
yelping.
Yeah, they were like, at first, did they leave one of the dogs here? Or somebody got hurt? And I thought it was one of those mechanical Febreze things that that real high-pitched mechanical sound. Like, we don't have any of those. We just kept on sitting there going, there's no way that was any of that stuff. And we ripped apart the house after looking.
It sounded human to me.
Yeah, and they were basically on one side of the house. We were on the other, and it's a fair-sized house.
Yeah.
And we heard it just as clearly as they did, so it just kind of emanated through the
See, we had a
house.
similar instance in our house, but it was in the morning. And, you know, ghost stuff doesn't happen in the morning. It's only at night when it's dark, you know. But, yeah, it happened in the morning, and it was a loud sound
He's
like
kidding.
that.
It happens all day.
So it was weird, you know.
Yeah.
And I was having breakfast, and the hair on my neck stood up, and I was like, wow, that was weird. And I know it wasn't my wife because she was standing there, and it wasn't a dog or nothing like that. And the strange thing that I thought was weird was you couldn't tell from what direction it came.
Yeah.
It was just
like
there.
that. Yeah.
You know?
We do that like you heard them saying, I
It
heard
was
it
over
over
there.
here.
No,
I
it was
heard
back
it over
there.
here.
Yeah, you can't tell it. It's just there all of a sudden, almost like a standing wave or something. It's weird.
Right.
You know, it's undirectional. It's strange. But okay, so what are we looking at next?
Okay, so this next one, I was asking, this is actually, Jason was in training on this investigation. Yeah.
Did they even have electronics back then?
Will we be able to tell by his attire that he was in training?
So I had Jason, and I had another gentleman with me who didn't end up staying on the team. And we thought that we had a child spirit because we had done this room before on a previous investigation, and at that point we were talking to a child.
Yeah.
So I was trying to verify if this was the same child. You'll hear the reply. You can judge that for yourself, but it was clearly not the same child.
And so, can you give a location on this?
This was in Cypress, Texas.
In Cypress, okay. And here we go.
Are you an 11-year-old girl?
That was awesome.
That would be a no.
Wow.
Now that is a typical ghost.
Yeah, they didn't hear that in the
Yeah,
room.
that's
That was
really weird.
No,
That did
we
not
did
sound
not
like a
hear
little
that
girl.
at the time.
You didn't hear it at the
was-
time, so
that
just the
was
recorder
only
picked
through
it
the
up.
gear. Yeah, only
Wow.
when I went home and reviewed did I go, okay, that was not a little girl.
Wow.
And that was his first like moment of, oh my God, because we had multiple speakers set up around to catch anything, and that one was directly between he and I, a little bit closer to him, and so he literally stopped and he goes, so it was literally, I don't remember if it was your right shoulder or your left one, but he's like, it was literally like right next to my arm, sitting there, standing next to me. I'm like, yep, isn't that cool?
Wow.
And then he looked at me and he smiled, and I was like, he'll stay.
Was questionable up to about that point.
And so where are you guys going to from here? I mean, I know that things have been really busy for you, but any expansions in the future? Are you going to be doing anything different? Have you thought about any different advertising programs or anything like that? Anything on the business side?
We still haven't been able to start our YouTube. We still
Okay.
want to do that. Honestly, we have just been too busy flat out handling cases. We're in our own way all the time because we've got so much going on.
Sure.
So we've been too busy handling cases to actually get to it, but we definitely do want to start doing that. We've made a lot of good friends up northeast. And there's a gentleman I talked to just the other day that referred a case to us from up there. So those kind of people, a lot of them are doing podcasts and they're doing things up there.
Okay.
So I would love to help them out with some of that. Tony Sparrow, who runs NESCAR, which was the Warrens organization, has been an advisor to me from time to time. He's been a great help to us, and we've been sending up some evidence his way as a piece that he got recently from one of our clients, a conduit for a demonic that we removed. So I'm hoping that we can do some of the conventions and some stuff and better get to know some of those guys that we've been working with.
Okay.
John Zaffis has been a great advisor to us and to me especially, and has given some advice in some cases and that kind of thing. So
Okay.
We'd love to see him again, and if we get a chance to meet up with them to do that. We've got a really good friend down in Florida who's doing a lot of podcasts down there, and his name's Bill Slevin. And he does things very similar to what we do. He handles a lot of the specialty stuff. He's, trained in all the same kind of things that we are, and investigates in a very similar method. So I've told him, if he's out this way, I would very much like to, have him along with us, or if we happen to get down to Florida to do something with him.
Mm-hmm.
So it really just, I guess, more kind of strengthening those relationships with some of the others that handle the same kind of cases that we do, and being on their podcasts and things like that with them.
That's great. And do y'all have like a part of the season where you go on hiatus and just take a break? And
We used to.
We used to.
Yeah.
One mandatory day.
The first couple of years, our slow season was
Holidays.
like November
Holidays.
through
March.
February, March.
March.
Yeah. After those first couple of years, it was like, where'd the slow season go?
Yeah,
When is the slow season coming?
continuous.
It does slow down a little December through February.
mm-hmm.
A little. But that's it.
But you don't really get a break.
Meaning,
That's it.
No.
meaning at that point, we're only booking out like 2 months in advance
Right,
instead of 3.
Yeah.
Okay. And so right now, what about bookings? Are y'all pretty booked up?
We are booking into October right now.
Wow.
currently.
So if somebody has a problem, they need to call you pretty quick so they can get on the books, huh?
That's what I tell everybody, because I'll have some that are like, well, I want to do it, but I'm not sure what date's good for me. And then when I tell them, that we're 3 months out, it's like, oh. And I'm like, so what you want to do is get on my schedule as quick as possible so that you're locked in there. And, we can always move people up if somebody cancels. We do that all the time. And we're happy to do that. We usually have a waiting list of a few people that have told me, I want to move up. If somebody cancels, I want that spot.
Wow. Okay.
So we try to help people with that as much as we can. But, a lot of times I'll look at what I have and I'll say, the ones that are on the books right now, they're not going to cancel. We're already into that process, and those people are, when you get to this point where you're dealing with people being attacked and their families are scared, their kids are scared, those people don't typically cancel.
Right.
I mean, they want their appointment. They're going to make sure they're there for that appointment.
Right. Mark, you got any additional questions,
We
comments?
have one more.
No.
We do have a couple more clips if y'all have the
clips that-
time.
We have time.
Are good. Are good clips.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to involve Mark since he's,
Well, I did have something weird happen the other day. I don't think I've told you about.
Really?
It was in the morning too, which is unusual. You're not looking for ghosts in the morning; they're always at night. You
Right.
tell that by the movies.
Yeah.
But
I've seen those movies.
there I was, and I looked down the hall, and I saw an apparition. It was kind of the typical opaque, and I'll be damned if it wasn't Elvis. Yeah, I could tell by the sideburns. He had the white jumpsuit on with a high collar. That's
Did he sing,
Elvis by
did
God
he sing
present.
for you, though?
No, he did not sing.
Oh, man.
I didn't see him very long, and I only saw him that one time. He went in the bathroom. He never came out.
Oh, boom, boom, boom.
That'll teach you to ask me anything.
Okay. So you said you had another clip.
Yeah, that hurt Jason. He's a huge Elvis fan,
Thank you very much.
Yes, so this next one, my niece, Tracy, used to be on the team with us. And this is her. Was she with you?
Yeah, she was with
You were-
Jason.
Michelle.
This is the
Oh, was it Michelle?
And where
I
was
think it was
this?
both
And
of
where
them.
was
I
this
can't
at?
remember
me,
who
me,
was-
Michelle, and Tracy. I
Yeah, it was
believe.
the three of them.
But Tracy,
I don't remember.
Yeah, it was
actually,
the three of you.
no, I don't
No.
think
I don't think I
you were
was
there
at that
because
one.
there was not
That
a
was my
male in
It
there.
was
No,
me.
I was the only male in the room.
Wasn't it me, Jason? And
No,
I
you
don't
were
know.
No, I was the
definitely
only
not
male
there.
in the room. I remember that much, but I think it was Michelle.
That was
I don't
Michelle.
remember that part because I remember y'all
Might
telling
only
me
been
about
you
it.
and
So I
Tracy.
wasn't in that session.
It may have only been you and Tracy.
I think it was just you.
This
and
was
Tracy.
very many years ago.
And where was this at?
We're all trying to remember.
Well, because I didn't
so
feel good in
this
that house because I
one-
was
Hey,
I kept getting pushed down.
what case was that? Do you remember what area?
That was the
The
closet where the
entryway?
guy.
No.
That was not the. We were up in the landing area of the upstairs.
Please edit that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Blurred that out.
Okay.
Um,
Hang on, Jackie. What's the time on the audio deck?
Yeah, please don't share the last name. There's a rule about that. 124.
Okay, can you write that down for me? About 120. So yeah,
I
I'll
do
get
not
that
remember. I guess
Could it have been in Conroe?
It's Conroe. It's
It
where
was in
Sadie
Conroe.
was. It's Conroe, and y'all were in that
Yeah, it was the
closet,
same.
that area between the laundry room and the master closet and stuff like that, where the guy was.
I didn't think that was the same guy, the Bubba guy, because that was Bubba.
Well, let's
guy.
show it, and if it comes back to you, then we can.
I don't recall. Sorry. But she's asking the spirit to make communication with them, and he answers her very audibly.
Is that the one where Jason saw the gentleman?
No.
Yeah, see, it was.
Dude, what? What is
She
it?
said, "Is there someone in here with us?" And he says, "Me." And there's a short pause, and then he says, "What's your name?"
Wow.
He was trying to have an outright conversation.
He
with
was
her.
coming on to you.
She's my niece is very cute too, so that's very possible.
How are you doing?
That's almost creepy.
It was the ghost of Joey from Friends.
I'm trying to sound like him.
I like it. All right.
Yeah, we loved him though, because he was. I mean, that's a lot of words. Usually, if you get one word, you're doing good. That was.
So you said that
whole
was your
sentence.
niece, and she's no longer with the team.
Right.
So have you had people that have come on and just said, "Hey, I'm not doing this shit"?
Yes.
Just got scared or whatever.
Well, what do they
and-
expect, you know? I mean, really.
I had one lady that I hired. She's a very nice lady. We're still friends with her, but it just wasn't for her. Chris and I were in a room with her, and they started communicating through the gear, and she was just, you could tell, visibly terrified.
Yeah.
And I warn people before they come in, this is not for everybody. You know, it's not what the TV shows make it look like. There's a lot of nights you're bored. You're literally sitting there talking to yourself or your partner in a room, and nothing is going on.
Right.
You know, you may be working at 3 a.m. and you're tired from the day, and you're doing that, and nothing is going on. You know, there are other times you might be locked in a room, you can't get out. You know, there's dangerous things going on. So you never know what you're going
Hours
to get.
of boredom spiked with intermediate terror.
Exactly.
Kind of.
And you know, that's not for everybody. And the spirits are one thing, the demonics even are a whole other. I've gotten to where now I don't say it. They can all tell you for years. When we started that, I would every time say, "This is a demonic case. If anyone does not want to go, you don't have to go. Just say no." And finally, they all kept telling me yes, so I stopped putting it in there. Like, okay, well, they're just going to tell me yes either way. So,
Yeah.
you know. But with new people, I'm always very cautious of that. What cases I start them on.
Right.
There are certain cases it's like, that is not a starter case. Nope, new guy doesn't get to go on until this point or whatever. So, yeah.
I'm sure there's no pranks allowed, like, you know, get some new person in a dark room and just scare the hell out of them.
There are some teams I know that do that. I've always been kind of adamant about don't
I'd be
do
out.
that.
I'd be like, no, we ain't playing that.
We have too much real danger on this team to play with that and
Right.
things that could go bad. Now, on the way there, we're a comedy show, you know, as we're driving down in the car and back, and our antics amongst each other as our little para family are pretty comical. But yeah, when we get there, it's pretty much all business.
So what do we got coming up?
We heard that one. This was Chris, Michelle, and I in a case that we did in Humble.
Humble? There weren't any ghosts in Humble. Humble's a nice town.
Nice ghost.
It's kind of edge of Atascocita if you would
Yeah.
make them play. But we were in an upstairs game room area. And you hear, as well as the entity talking, you hear a very loud tap on the window, like something hit the window. But we're upstairs. There were no trees anywhere near us. There was nothing that could have done that.
Wow.
So obviously we did not hear him at the time. We heard the tap.
Yeah, the smack, but then afterwards it was like, because
he just
He
we
said
never were
something.
able to make out
Yeah,
what he
we have
said.
no idea what he was saying, but you could hear him saying something.
And I mean, it was quite lengthy. That was a full 1 or 2 sentences. I have no idea what he was trying to say, but he said a lot of it. We called that clip Mr. Creepy
Mr.
because
Creepy.
Michelle was just like, he sounds creepy, so we named him Mr. Creepy.
Mr. Creepy.
So, do you ever get any audibles that are in another language?
Yeah.
You know,
Oh.
German, French, all that kind of stuff.
We have had spirits, because of where we are. We've had a lot of Spanish that we run across.
Little funny story with that. There's a little park where they have a bunch of old historic homes that they've basically they've kind of refurbished them and brought them back to life in a sense, and they moved them all there as kind of like a little historic park type thing.
Spring.
Yeah, no, not in Spring. It's very similar to Old Town Spring type thing, but up in Montgomery.
Okay.
And there is a cluster of spirits in one of the houses that we were getting the sense that somebody was there, but we could not, for the life of us, make any real. The light would come on, but we couldn't really converse. And I'm just like, let's whip out Google Translate, and we just threw it to Spanish and asked, "Hi, how are you here with us?" Light comes on. We asked, "Are you a guy?" Yes. And then we just had a full-out conversation through Google Translate.
Wow.
Yeah, because none of us are fluent Spanish speakers, so it was like, okay. And Michelle just held up her phone every question. We'd all say it into the box, and the box would repeat it, and then he'd respond.
You may have to get a bilingual member. That'd be kind of cool.
We've thought about that at times.
You know?
Yeah.
Okay.
The only other time, of course, that odd language has come up is actually if somebody is like possessed, if we're dealing with a demonic case, and we've had that.
And I would imagine that's like Latin or something.
Oh, you would think. We did one that we finished actually Easter morning when everybody else was getting up and looking at their Easter baskets. Most of us in this room were coming back from a 6.5-hour exorcism that we did the night before. The young lady in that situation had been possessed previous times as well. And this was kind of the final, but in some of her previous, we had audio recordings from those moments, and she was speaking what I thought initially was Latin. I gave it to a Catholic priest that I worked with so that he could help me decipher what was being said because he's fluent in Latin. He listened to it. He had another one of his cohorts come in and listen to it, and he got back to me and he told me, he said, "I can't translate this." He said, "It's not Latin. This is ancient Syrian, like a form of Aramaic."
Wow.
There are not very many people around who can translate that. So I am now, by the way, if anybody happens to watch this podcast who does that, I am looking for somebody who does that to help me. But
okay.
it's
You might be
very
able to
rare
find
thing.
somebody at a college or something that could do that.
I tried that route. I didn't get very far. Even then, with those guys, because they're dead languages. There are very few people. I mean, you can go to people high up in the Vatican and things like that.
Not even different languages, but ancient languages too,
Right.
like
Yeah.
the ancient Galaic or something.
That's crazy.
Right. So yeah,
We've got
that
the
gets
one
very
for the
tricky.
other place we went to, the investigation, I don't say their name, and we had the young Native American girl.
Yes, we did. And we can actually say that name
Okay.
because that is a public place.
Okay.
The Ott Hotel in
Oh, yeah.
Liberty, Texas.
We've been to the yacht.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. I like it.
They've got a lot going on there. But we did a full-out investigation that they let us do, and the spirit actually broke my tape recorder. I'm still sad about this, but she did give us a great EVP before she
Doesn't
did
it sound like she's like messing with it too?
She lifted it.
Yeah.
So
I mean, y'all should go back to the yacht, but let us film it. That'd be great.
if you can get her to agree, I'm very much down.
Yeah, that would be cool.
She
Well, you'd have to go to her to get it.
the Native American girl, that's what we believe it was based on the voice.
Yeah.
But we were in a room, and we had a tape recorder in the hallway sitting on like a chest right there next to the stairs. If
Mhm.
you've been there, you know what that looks
Yeah.
like. And you can hear the tape recorder lift. Like you can hear the movement of somebody picking it up.
Mhm.
And we have no idea what she said, but it sounded like a question in the way she said it, almost like she was saying, "What is this?" kind of a thing. And there's a brief sentence, and it's clearly a Native American dialect,
Mhm.
which one I have no idea, but very clearly that's what it is. And then you hear her set the tape recorder back down. And after that, when I got up to that point, I'd listened to all of it, and then I heard her, and I rewound it, and I played back that one little piece, thank God, and recorded on my digital recorder, so I'd have that piece just in case anything happened. After that, the tape would not play from that point. So then I thought, oh, well, something happened to the tape. At least I got the EVP, before the tape got destroyed.
Right.
So I tried again using that tape recorder, other tapes, brand new tapes. No. Whatever happened, fried it.
Yeah.
That was the end of it, but got
Wow.
a great EVP.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad you guys are doing well, and I'm glad you're busy. Do got to take off every once in a while, all work and no play,
Yeah, we got to get better at
So-
that. We're working on that.
Yeah, but I would imagine that you're in quite demand these days with society being the way that it is.
Absolutely.
And so y'all do travel. So if there's somebody in another state that wants to see you guys and they're serious about it, they can definitely call you up, and you'll be willing to travel that way.
Yes.
And I guess client pays expenses on something like that, huh?
Right, so we don't charge for services, we never have.
Okay.
Everything from basic first investigation to, full-blown blessing or even a full-blown exorcism, we don't charge for that.
Mm-hmm.
But we do charge for travel. That's the only thing. We have a travel
Okay.
fee. So if it's locally, it's going to be pretty equivalent to a tank of gas or not much more than that.
It's only $500.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If we're going out of town, then obviously it goes up a little bit based on the gas money that it'll take, the hotel, for the
Okay.
team. If we're going out of state, if it's Louisiana, Arkansas, something we can drive reasonably.
Mm-hmm. Decent
We'll
proximity.
drive it. Same thing, gas and hotel. Beyond that, it's a flight.
Okay.
So flight and hotel.
Right.
And those do get pretty beefy. A
Oh,
lot
yeah,
of
and
people
incidentals
choose
and
not
everything,
to do
right.
that. And if I know a team close that I feel comfortable recommending, I'll
Mhm.
say, hey, you need to call
Right.
this person, see what they can do because they're local. I don't ever want somebody to pay that expense if they don't have to, if there's another good
Okay.
option. But sometimes, they may live in a remote area. There may not be teams near them that deal with the kind of things that we deal with. So
Gotcha.
in those cases, we're definitely there to help.
So what's the best way for somebody to reach you if they need to?
So you can call us 281-825-8618. We're on Facebook, Google, Thumbtack, Yelp, you name it. Pretty much
Okay.
everything. Twitter, Instagram. all
Under
of it.
Spring Paranormal Investigators.
Yep.
Great. Fantastic. Well, I enjoyed having all you guys here. Anybody have any comments or
So
anything?
there's one more clip left.
There's still another clip?
There's one more.
Man, what do we got now?
So this one's a visual.
Okay,
not
good,
audio.
because I was about to say I want to see something. Yeah.
So Lynette and I are having a flashlight session with a spirit, and we actually didn't notice at the time till I reviewed it, but the spirit decided to open one of the drawers in the cabinet that was next to us while we were having the session.
And y'all were in a
it
kitchen
just
or
so happened
something,
to be
or-
on cam. So.
Wow.
Didn't they close it too?
Yes.
Yeah, look at the far right cabinet as you watch this.
Okay.
Maybe they turned it off, but they didn't have the energy to turn it back on. Yeah, that's always a possibility too. Oh, there they are.
No clue.
And you literally see it open
Yeah.
and close, and then there's a brief pause, and
Yeah.
it like gets over to the light.
Yeah,
and you see
they're
the
like,
light.
not today.
Wow.
That was pretty cool.
That's cool. So I'll insert all these audio clips and video clips so the audience can check it out. Once again, man, I'm really glad you guys got to make it out. I know it's hard to get the whole group together at once.
Yes, and
'cause
shout out
everybody's
to
busy.
Josh, who couldn't be with us today.
Yeah.
His family is sick,
Yeah.
so.
No, that's terrible. I hope they all get better. So yeah, we're looking forward to that too. So y'all keep us posted, and I'll send something out.
Definitely.
Mark, anything else?
Well, here's a weird thought.
Oh no!
Imagine that coming from me. So I read this the other day. There are more people alive right now than have ever lived on this earth. That means.
Wait, there are more people alive right now than have ever lived on this earth collectively, or right now?
So far.
So, no.
Yes. So that means, as people, look it up.
I don't see how that's possible.
Yeah.
You got to think. I mean, that makes perfect sense. You have back in the day. I mean, how many children was normally for a family? You'd have like 6 or 7 kids from 2 people, and that multiplication keeps on getting more and more. And when you have 3 billion people that multiply, then that becomes a far drastically larger number.
See, he's a smart kid. You believe him, don't you? So what my point is...
Okay, I can't wait to hear it.
My point is there's more people alive today than have ever lived. So that means as people pass through this world, business is going to pick up.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's
that
all.
makes sense.
Well, and again, back to the negativity and the things
Mm-hmm.
going on in the world. I don't see it slowing down
Well,
anytime soon. It's only
there's
until we
always,
go through a major population reduction, which will happen when we peak out at about 9 billion.
And then business picks up again.
Yeah, it sure will. Yeah,
There you go.
if you're still here. Yeah.
Well, that's it from me.
Well, thanks, Mark. I appreciate that.
You're certainly welcome.
All right, guys. Well, we look forward to having you back on another couple months. Let's see what's going on. Bring some more evidence. I still want you to bring me something in a box.
Yeah, we want a
that
gremlin in a box.
Yeah,
Yeah, I promised them a Dybbuk box, and we'd break the seal on it right here on the show.
Yeah, that'd be too cool.
that'd be a great idea. Yeah.
And if y'all get any additional equipment or whatever, bring that by, and let's check it out.
Oh, and invite us to the next haunted hotel you go to, and we will stealthily take video.
Yeah, we'll sneak some cameras in and video the whole thing. So it'd be great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And now no one lets us book.
We're saying, nope, that ain't happening. All right, guys. Well, there you have it. Spring Paranormal Investigators. It's a good bunch. We've had them in here a couple times, and it's always been an enjoyable conversation. For Mark Hogan, I'm Hank Vatt, and this is Hank's Think Tank, and we're gone.